In this portion of the course, I want to spend some time examining an outreach initiative that was implemented in the state of West Virginia through the receipt of federal GEAR Up funding, state access dollars, as well as investments that institutions collectively made to ensure that that state was meeting its public policy goals. As we have outlined thus far in the lecture materials within the course, and as you will see as you read through weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the access paradigm has been central to the historic mission of higher education. Bogan Aper will talk about public policy initiatives that have been implemented to support that access paradigm. Many of you work at institutions that were created in the late 1960s for that sole goal, to ensure that more Tennesseans have the opportunity to enroll in post-secondary education. But the state of West Virginia is a state to our north that across all statistics faces challenges economically, educationally, and demographically. And it's a state where I had the honor to serve as system chancellor for the better part of 6 years. During my tenure as chancellor, we were aggressive in our efforts to secure outside support to support our access initiatives. Those efforts led to the creation of something called the College Foundation for West Virginia, the one-stop shop for students to learn about, apply to, and pay for college. This website, this portal, this foundation became the primary lens through which that state attempted to move its 100 to 16 outcomes in terms of the educational pipeline, or the 119 for us here in the state of Tennessee. What you see on the chart is the front page to the web a number of years ago. This has been updated, but this is what the front page to the web looked like. Your portal, one place for students, grades 8 through college, to learn about, apply to, and pay for college. As students created accounts and logged into this website, they had the opportunity to learn more about post-secondary opportunities. They had the opportunity to learn more about financial aid opportunities. They had the opportunity to take ACT and SAT test preps. But what that state did is it used the power of technology to drive students to post-secondary education. But then they recognized that traditional communication methodologies, i.e. mail, are still powerful. So in order to drive more adults back to post-secondary education, they launched a direct mail campaign through CFWV in which they sent postcards to students with some college but no degree, similar to what we're doing in the state with Reconnect, driving those students to this portal and ultimately hoping that they would enroll in post-secondary education. They also undertook a massive PR campaign in terms of billboards all across the state of West Virginia as you drove from Bluefield on the southern portion of the state, exited up towards Wheeling, towards Pittsburgh. All along the interstates, you saw billboards advertising the College Foundation for West Virginia, your one-stop shop to learn about, apply to, and pay for college. So if you remember comments that I made in a prior presentation, I referenced Pat Callan. And a question that Pat and his colleagues at the National Center for Public Policy and Higher Education asked with frequency in public rollouts of their Measuring Up reports. That question was, how can colleges meet the needs of the state, rather than how can states meet the needs of colleges? This campaign was a direct effort on behalf of that state's system of post-secondary institutions to respond to that state call of meeting the needs. Rather than advertising West Virginia University, Marshall University, Bluefield State College, etc., those institutions marketed college with the recognition that if more students entered the pipeline, then all would benefit collectively from increased enrollments. So through this one-stop shop, that state began to see an increase in their application rates, an increase in their yield rates, and an increase in those students declaring an intent to go to post-secondary education. Here are further examples of print pieces and advertisements that went into newspapers all across the state to support their outreach campaign. And then here you see an online marketing campaign with pop-ups from Pandora, etc., once again linking students in the state of West Virginia back to this one-stop portal, the College Foundation for West Virginia. That idea was not a new idea to the state. That idea was something that they borrowed from the state of North Carolina, who had a long-standing foundation in their state to support student access and outreach. I highlight that effort because it demonstrates the commitment that states are making to completion agendas. The completion agenda is more than a funding formula. The completion agenda is more than promise. The completion agenda is more than embedded academic advisors. The completion agenda is more than student support services. The completion agenda is a holistic effort on behalf of states and their respective institutions to drive more students to post-secondary education. So within the state of West Virginia, they were streamlined and efficient in their use of a website, the College Foundation of West Virginia, utilizing that website to then open students across the state to the opportunities available at the respective institutions. Kind of the culmination of Callan's charge of what can institutions do for the state rather than what can states do for institutions. So I'm going to bring this segment of the lectures to a close. And with this segment, we'll then prepare to transition into the readings, week 2 and the subsequent weeks of class. So in closing, as we look at the items that have been discussed throughout this series of podcasts, throughout this series of lectures, here on this slide are, from my perspective, the dominant challenges facing higher education in 2016 and in the years to come. Changing expectations about college readiness, and tensions across systems related to preparation, coupled with changing demands for 21st century skills and gen ed. Tennessee transfer pathways, curriculum alignment, dual enrollment, all of those policy propositions are subsumed within this bullet point. Mission congruence with state agendas such as Complete College Tennessee. How do institutions align their missions with the completion agenda? The recognition that the cost of college will continue to escalate, as will student debt burdens, unless we do something significant or disruptive to change the delivery equation for the product that we provide, instruction. The need to enhance market presence and to remain relevant in an increasingly competitive economic and higher education environment and landscape. If you're a small regional liberal arts institution, you have to define your niche in a marketplace. If not, there's a very real possibility that you could follow the path of Virginia Intermont University, which was formerly located in Bristol, Tennessee, which here in the past couple of years closed. All institutions, be they community colleges, TCATs, or universities, are looking very deliberatively at their products, their services, and how they remain relevant in a complex marketplace. You're seeing institutions launching new academic programs to meet market demands. Small private schools such as Milligan College here in Northeast Tennessee, starting programs in the area of physician's assistant or in the areas of engineering. An institution with a liberal arts background offering a physician's assistant program and engineering program may not align with their mission goals, but it does align with the need for them to remain relevant in the marketplace. The diverse needs of populations, be they international, honors, and other segments that have been traditionally underrepresented in populations that have enrolled in post-secondary education. How does that impact the academy? Athletics. We may talk about athletics some, given the focus and the minimal presence of athletics on community colleges. There are some within our system who have athletic programs. It's not as significant of an issue in the community college sector as it is in the universities. But if you are a student of higher education, you recognize the role, positive or negative, that athletics have on the academy. The need for institutions to create linkages with state and local governments. The need for all of us to look to external revenue sources to drive philanthropy and community support to help bring additional resources to cover the cost of our operations. And then finally, and I leave this as the question, how do we stay true to our mission? Higher education, from a public perspective, was created to meet the access needs of the nation. But as institutions differentiate, as institutions evolve, some contend that they may be moving away from that access mission and are focused more on national rankings, etc. So I leave that as a hanging question. How do we stay true to our mission? How does that mission change? How does that mission evolve? But that is a conversation that I hope we can have throughout the semester as we examine the shifting sands of post-secondary education. So this slide I provided in a lecture earlier in this series, and it was the Ask You portrayal of the top public policy challenges facing higher education. Once again, you'll read this in week 2 of the course. You see the trends at the Great Recession. You see those trends in 2016. Great stability from 8 to 16. So with that, if we were together, I would open it for question or discussion, but I look forward to the questions and discussions that will occur on our discussion boards as a result of each of you having the opportunity to review these lectures. I'll pose some questions related to mission. Dr. Flora and I will pose some questions related to how do these demographics, data points, et cetera, align with the things that you're seeing on your campus, and what responsibility do we have as leaders of an educational system to talk about this internally and externally. I thank you for hanging with me. I thank you for moving through this portion of the course materials, and I look forward to being with you in the week 2 segment of the course as we dive into specific readings. Thank you very much and see you soon.